A new lawsuit has surfaced, naming Jennifer Lopez as a material witness in crimes allegedly committed by Diddy Combs. According to the claims, J.Lo was aware of Diddy's actions involving minors but failed to intervene. The case has gained traction as more witnesses come forward, with reports suggesting that 8 explicit tapes and 11 flash drives have been handed over to the FBI. The filing by Cardell Smith states that Jennifer Lopez, also known as J.Lo or Jenny from the block, will be called as a material witness and expert in relation to Combs' possession and distribution of a videotaped sexual assault involving the plaintiff in 1997. The filing further alleges that Lopez was coerced by Combs to stay silent about the incident, which was recorded at Combs' New York residence and studio. The plaintiff asserts that J.Lo was aware of the tape's existence during her relationship with Combs from 1999 to 2001 but did not report it to authorities. It's also claimed that she was questioned by a New York detective, Derek Palmer, who allegedly obtained confirmation of the tape's existence. Smith's filing seeks to call Palmer as a witness, suggesting his testimony could substantiate the claims. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team has requested the case be dismissed. However, Smith has filed a comprehensive response, spanning over 200 pages, which cites case law to support his arguments. The filing also accuses Combs of using violence and threats to suppress legal actions. Smith argues that his delay in reporting the assault was due to fears for his safety and his family's well-being, only feeling secure to come forward after Homeland Security raided Combs' properties. Additional claims include allegations of Combs threatening inmates and prison guards to intimidate Smith. The filing also links the case to Combs' late ex-wife, Kim Porter, who was reportedly writing a book revealing Diddy's alleged criminal activities.
And those statements include descriptions of what the witness says he saw on those tapes. So I asked him about that, and he answered what he could, given the limitations imposed on him after testifying before the grand jury. Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8 celebrities, how many of them were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
This is going to be all speculation. I just want to preface it by he wouldn't know if they were. Right.
Sure.
Appear to
Let
be.
me rephrase
right,
it.
Based on, yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs, how many of them appear to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appear to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims
They
or
victims.
were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were all 8 were victimized,
Yeah,
meaning
victims.
this was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it, what they was doing.
Kim Porter's close associate, Courtney Burgess, claims that Porter entrusted him with her memoir and sensitive materials, including 11 flash drives and 8 tapes implicating Diddy. These materials, now in FBI possession, have reportedly been presented to a grand jury. Burgess is set to testify in a federal criminal trial, shedding light on Porter's fears for her life as she sought to expose Diddy's alleged crimes. The memoir and tapes purportedly outline a network.
Is your client fearful if Diddy does get out?
As you know, I represent other clients, actual victims who have sued Mr. Combs, Diddy, in civil court, and all of them are very apprehensive about their safety if he were to be granted bond. I am confident in the court. I am sure that the court will remain with their previous decision of no bond. I feel like the judge only gave this, let me think about it, just to not make it as obvious But I have all the confidence in the world in the federal court in the state of New York that they will remain keeping Diddy under no bond, and that all of the victims in this case will be able to proceed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I mean, you don't just represent this man, you represent other alleged victims too, and people involved. Have there been any threats made against any of your clients?
There have been threats from people on the internet, but not from, at least what we don't know, from Diddy to be directly. So my clients have, Mr. Burgess has received several death threats. My client, Mrs. Parham, has been receiving threats, but we don't know if they're just regular people from the internet or if they're actually people who were sent by Diddy.
Do you have any idea where the threats are coming from? I mean, have you done any investigation?
Well, most of the investigation leads us to a lot of burner accounts on Instagram, and we're trying to now sift through possibly working with law enforcement to try to get subpoenas to determine the IP addresses of where those threats were emanating.
So, okay, interesting. We know that the cease and desist letter has now come. Has there been any other pressure of any kind that you or your clients have felt to stop talking?
In general, I feel that the gag order, when we talk about that, Mark Agnifilio wrote about me specifically, and also all of the other plaintiffs in the civil lawsuits to try to have all of us gagged. There's pressure every day that is continuing to talk about this is putting not only our lives in jeopardy, but could be potentially used against us in a gag order.
Of Hollywood and music industry figures involved in criminal activities, including sexual exploitation of minors. This development could be a pivotal moment in uncovering the truth behind the allegations against Diddy and his associates.
So why did you believe in these cases, and why didn't you believe in others that you were presented with?
Well, the thing with a sexual abuser, is they follow a pattern. They fall to type, and you become very clear on what that pattern is, particularly a serial sexual abuser. And these cases were all identical in the facts, identical in the story. It was beginning, middle, conclusion,
They know each other?
Boom. None of them knew each
Did
other.
you have them meet?
No.
Did you have them coordinate stories?
No, no.
Do you think they had any contact with each other before they came to you?
Absolutely not.
And when you were talking to them, well, first, the ones that you didn't take, why not?
Stories didn't make sense. Stories didn't fit the pattern. Stories were not credible. I mean, this is my 30th year as a lawyer. I've tried over 100 cases. I can assess whether somebody's story is credible. And if I don't believe it, I'm not going to put my name on a pleading, sign it, and file it in court. I'm not doing that. And that's what I did with the 60 plus cases that I rejected.
And this is not really your area of expertise. If people will look you up, celebrity lawsuits is not really where you make your bones. Why this?
Well, I was involved in the Weinstein litigation.
Right.
I was involved in the Paducah litigation. I was involved in the Hayden litigation. Why did I do this? I do this because it's important. I think it's important for people to be heard, have their chance to get the power back. Because sexual abuse, sexual assault is about one thing: taking power, humiliating, demeaning a person and a victim. It has nothing to do with sex. And so I think it's important. I think it's important to get the word out. I think it's important for men to feel, hey, look, I can come out and be heard just like a woman could.
And the defense that, look, they knew what they were getting into. These are regrets. They went there, they partied, and now they see a pocket.
No, I don't think so. One, my client
Were
was...
they gay men?
One was bisexual, the other ones were not. And they were going there. The client was bisexual, worked for Diddy. Diddy owed him money for doing errands for him and being his step and fetch, for lack of a better word. And I think it was a power move. It was a clear power move because this guy had the nerve to come to him and say, you owe me money. And so Diddy said, come on to the Intercontinental Hotel. He gives him the drug, knocks him out, sodomizes him. And I won't use the term that my client used, but he said he tried to turn me into his B word. And I think it was a clear power move on each and every occasion. I think the ones that took place in the Park Hyatt, that wasn't partying. My client met him at a nightclub in the city here with a music producer. He didn't think he was getting into that. The man who was raped in the Hamptons, he thought he was going to a white party. Who wouldn't want to go to a white party? I would have gone to a white party back in the day. I wouldn't go now. But they went there innocently, and this is what happened to them.
I never went. I appreciate you very much. We will follow the cases.
Diddy's sons have acknowledged the existence of Kim Porter's alleged memoir and are reportedly trying to gain control over it. However, their motivations appear more financial than honoring their mother's wishes. Christian and Quincy Combs, Quincy being Diddy's adopted son, are said to have sent a cease and desist letter to Courtney Burgess, who is in possession of the memoir and claims to have 11 flash drives and 8 tapes related to Diddy's alleged crimes. The sons argue they own the rights to their mother's intellectual property, including her diary entries and potential manuscripts, as her heirs. They have previously denied the memoir's existence, even when a derivative book by Chris Todd surfaced on Amazon. Despite their denials, they are demanding accountability for any potential sales of the book. Burgess maintains possession of the material, which is now under federal scrutiny. The revelations add to a growing pattern of accusations against Diddy, where abuse and control appear to have been central motives rather than mere sexual attraction.
Is your client fearful if Diddy does get out?
As you know, I represent other clients, actual victims who have sued Mr. Combs, Diddy, in civil court, and all of them are very apprehensive about their safety if he were to be granted bond. I am confident in the court. I am sure that the court will remain with their previous decision of no bond. I feel like the judge only gave this, let me think about it, just to not make it as obvious. But I have all the confidence in the world and the federal court and the state of New York that they will remain keeping Diddy under no bond, and that all of the victims in this case will be able to proceed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I mean, you don't just represent this man, you represent other alleged victims too and people involved. Have there been any threats made against any of your clients?
There have been threats from people on the internet, but not from, at least what we don't know, from Diddy to be directly. So my clients have, Mr. Burgess has received several death threats. My client, Mrs. Parham, has been receiving threats, but we don't know if they're just regular people from the internet or if they're actually people who were sent by Diddy.
Do you have any idea where the threats are coming from? I mean, have you done any investigation?
Well, most of the investigation leads us to a lot of burner accounts on Instagram, and we're trying to now sift through possibly working with law enforcement to try to get subpoenas to determine the IP addresses of where those threats were emanating.
So, okay, interesting. We know that the cease and desist letter has now come. Has there been any other pressure of any kind that you or your clients have felt to stop talking?
In general, I feel that the gag order, when we talk about that, Mark Agnifilio wrote about me specifically, and also all of the other plaintiffs in the civil lawsuits to try to have all of us gagged. There's pressure every day that us continuing to talk about this is putting not only our lives in jeopardy, but could be potentially used against us in a gag order.
I also was just recently contacted by someone who wanted me to essentially represent them in the sale of one of the Diddy tapes.
You're saying that there's tapes and they're being shopped?
Yes, there have been people already shopping.
We've heard about the tapes.
Yes.
The shopping thing is...
Yes, there already have been tapes leaking around Hollywood, being shopped around to individuals in Hollywood. But one particular person contacted me to shop a particular video they were in possession of, and to contact the person who was in the video to see if they were interested in purchasing the video before it became a public knowledge.
I've heard this before, so like a catch and kill.
Catch and kill, correct.
Wow. And I guess you can't reveal the person who is on
No, I
tape.
can't explain who the person was, but
High profile?
Mr. Combs was in the tape, and this other person is, I would venture to say, more high profile than Mr. Combs.
Really?
Attorney Ariel Mitchell, representing an A-list celebrity who claims to have been abused by Diddy as a minor, has also spoken out. She confirmed the existence of Diddy's tapes and revealed that someone attempted to sell her one. Mitchell, who alleges her client was drugged and assaulted by Diddy, has received threats since filing the lawsuit. She has expressed fears for her safety and now carries a firearm for protection.
These ladies at a party, for years, P. Diddy's gotten a hall pass. He's actually created his own kingdom where he makes his own rules, and you got to follow his rules or you get penalized. And guess what, Laura? He's now in a federal penitentiary, and for the first time in his life, he's facing his own fate at the hands of somebody else. And I will tell you, Laura, I've done federal cases, that's not the place you want to be in federal court. 90% of federal criminal indictments brought down are pled out, right? A plea deal is brought. And of the only 10% left, 90% of those defendants that go to trial, they lose. So he is looking at a daunting uphill battle to fight these horrible charges.
Now, Brian, one of the DHS agents involved in this raid on his Miami mansion described what he saw inside the house, saying that, in my opinion, he's as bad as Epstein. These women are young, either barely legal or barely illegal. Brian, this sounds like he was a monster.
Yeah, Laura, I will tell you that this indictment was very detailed, by the way, too. Your viewers should know there were over 300 subpoenas served, over 50 witnesses interviewed. Why is that important? Because the federal prosecutors aren't going to be leveling an indictment like this unless they have ammunition and they have cause to bring it. And the core issue at this case, which the feds have to prove, which it's looking like they can, is that P. Diddy essentially controlled these women, that he threatened them with stopping the money that he was paying them, that he spiked their drinks with drugs, that's been alleged in the indictment, and that he basically told them, I'm going to ruin your life unless you engage in these freak-offs. And that's really what the prosecutors got to prove. And if you've got some victims coming forward to talk about that, you've got financial records that prove that, travel itinerary that proves that, P. Diddy has very little defense. And I got to tell you, Laura, if this guy wants to fight these charges, he's going to have to step up and walk into a courtroom and talk about it. If he doesn't testify in this case, he is dead on arrival.
Well, who else is on these tapes? I mean, will the tapes ever see the light of day? I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. Who else is there? It's like with the Epstein, his pleasure island. Who else? Who went? Who was there? What's the manifest? But Brian, chances 1 being least likely, 10 being most likely. Will we learn of other celebrities that were at these freak-offs?
Yeah, I think you've got an 8 or a 9 for a likelihood you're going to hear about it. Why? Because there are going to be more indictments coming down, Laura. That's an important point here, because he's being charged with racketeering and conspiracy. You're going to have, well, let's start on the inner circle. You're going to have former bodyguards. You can possibly have former musicians that he was with. You've got personal assistants that are going to be, they're already talking about this. Some of those are likely to be charged. And then guess what? If you've got some music moguls that are sending women over to these alleged freak-offs, then you've got some top people that are going to start crumbling too, because they're all part of what's called this criminal enterprise.
Federal prosecutors and defense attorneys believe Diddy's best option is to cooperate with authorities. With nearly 40 cases filed against him and overwhelming evidence, including video recordings and witness testimonies, prosecutors say his chances of fighting the allegations are slim. One FBI agent, present during a raid on Diddy's mansion in 2024, described the findings as horrifying. The investigation has uncovered a disturbing pattern of abuse and misconduct, leaving Diddy's legal team scrambling to respond.
So that's that. Now, as far as Jay-Z is concerned, this can really go one of two ways. This might be an isolated one-off case that he has to defend, or potentially it could be a Me Too type situation where other victims come forward. Obviously, we saw that with Diddy and Cassie Ventura. So the coming days and weeks are really going to be telling. And Tony Busby says he has more than 100, maybe up to 300 victims he's representing. So it's going to be interesting to see if any of them also name Jay-Z.
And Nima, if such a high-profile name like Jay-Z has come out, could more celebrity names be tied to these lawsuits? What do you think we can expect?
No question. This may just be the first celebrity domino, and Jay-Z was unmasked as celebrity A, but let's not forget there's a celebrity B in that same lawsuit that allegedly witnessed the sexual assault, a female celebrity. And there was someone who went on CNN earlier this week and said that his sexual assault was witnessed by another celebrity as well. So I think we're
Former federal prosecutor Nila Romani has suggested that Diddy and Jay-Z are among the first high-profile figures connected to this alleged sex trafficking network to face exposure. Ashton Kutcher is reportedly prepared to testify against Diddy, and other celebrities like Jennifer Lopez and T.D. Jakes have been named in lawsuits. The implications of this case extend far beyond Diddy, potentially unraveling a broader web of abuse in the entertainment industry.
We're going to see more celebrity names identified very soon.
All right, Nima Rani, thank you so much for joining us. As you said, this is one that has entered the court of public opinion. It's nice to have your actual legal advice on this one.
Despite mounting evidence, Diddy's legal team continues to deny all allegations. In court documents, his lawyers claim the government is leaking false information about underage victims and insist no such victims exist. This scandal has left little room for doubt as new evidence, witnesses, and chilling testimonies continue to emerge. With the FBI in possession of tapes, flash drives, and Porter's alleged memoir, Diddy's options are narrowing. The question now is whether he will cooperate with the authorities or if this case will take an even darker turn, shaking the music and entertainment industries to their core.